my group doesn't like immigrants, so I don't like them either. But I think it's one of those things, if you sat even most of them down and said, well, what do you think about him? Why do you feel this way? They wouldn't really have a good reason for it. They would just be like, well, they're fine, but, and then they'd come up with some excuse. But
how many people join
I think
the
it was
parade?
250.
250. Yeah.
And it might have been more. I mean, we could have recruited more, except that the parade organizers told us that was the most they could handle. They basically said, no, you have to stop at this amount, because if you go, I think they asked us to only have 200 people because they said that's too much. And we ended up with more than that, but we probably could have done a lot more than that if we'd really worked and if they had never said no, because at some point they said no and we were like, all right, we have to limit this somehow. So we stopped pushing for people to join, but we could have gotten more, I think.
How did you give advertisement? How people could know the parade?
Oh, just on social media, really.
Oh,
And email through sending out to different groups. Anybody who had a list of email list of people, we would just send them and they'd forward it to their list. And so everybody just sort of knew about it.
So it means you didn't organize the parade. It means not strictly, but the people, each person gets some information about the parade and each person join your parade like that.
Yeah, the cities put on the parade. And they figure out who walks where and what time it starts and all those things. All we did was just, I think we paid a fee to join, and they gave us a spot, and then we just showed up and did it.
How about the reactions from the audience on the side of the road?
It was driving.
Oh, yeah.
I drove a truck for people who, couldn't walk or didn't want to walk that far, and to carry water and things like that, So I was mostly just trying to avoid running people over because they would sort of wander in front of me and they were walking and, I was very focused on just being
driving.
yeah, just driving. Yeah. Not being a dangerous thing. And so I didn't see as much of the reaction as, I would have if I was just walking and looking around. But what I personally saw was either positive or neutral. And by neutral, I mean there were it was very hot that day. And there were a lot of people that just were sitting there looking hot. They didn't look mad or they weren't like shaking their fists. They were just like sitting there with sunglasses on, drinking. They were sort of unimpressed or unmotivated to respond. But most people were applauding and saying yay and waving and things like that. So what I saw was mostly positive. A couple of people told me that there were a few people that they saw that had sort of obvious negative reactions, like they were, they were like, frowning or something, some kind of reaction that told them that they were not pleased. But overwhelmingly, the reaction was positive, and in some cases, it was very positive. I heard stories of people like bursting into tears, along the side of the road, that just like so moved by this, and being just so happy. I saw a lot of what little I saw were people just like really like enthusiastic, like this is so good. So it was I would say an overwhelmingly positive response. Not unanimously positive maybe, but certainly far more positive than otherwise.
It is the first time
we ever did that. Yeah.
Urban Champaign is more with university, so it's a situation of it's different from other city or local area. How about the other city and in July 4th, the same kind of parade was there?
I don't know how many places actually have a parade. I mean, it's a fairly big undertaking, and so you have to have a big enough city to support it, just to have that many people that want to walk, and there may be somewhere 50 people get out there and walk down the street or something, but I don't think that a lot of cities even have a parade. A lot of places have fireworks. That's the big thing that people associate. Eating out, a picnic and shooting off fireworks. Those are the things that people generally do on the 4th of July. So I think parades are more of a larger city thing anyway. I think.
Yeah, indeed, I couldn't come here in the July 4th, so just watch it from Japan. But the other my impressive things as to the immigration forum, not as to the immigration forum, but after last November and December, after Trump won the elections, at that time immigration forum quickly organized some meeting in the Champagne Public Library.
Yes.
And at that time also the more people, just after elections, but more people came.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they filled the room, and the library told us we had to stop letting people in, so there were people standing out in the hall trying to listen from out there. It was very positive. But again, it was a similar thing to the parade, and may have been the genesis of the idea for the parade. Was basically we need to give people an opportunity to speak about how they feel and to let them know that we are here and we will be working for them, and that was the point of that.
So not about the specific issues, but they show their stance or their positions for immigrants, like that.
Well, yeah, at that time we had no idea what to expect, because that was just after the election and right after, I think, the whole travel ban executive order came out. So there was a feeling that things could be very bad very quickly, and no one knew, and everyone was afraid. So we'd had meetings. Our regular meetings were suddenly packed full of people coming in going, what do we do? How do we help? And so the thing at the library was to say, okay, we can only explain so much to people in little groups that show up. We need to make this a public event so people can come in and hear, yes, here are people who are in positions of power or who are working on this issue, and here's what we have to say about this. And we had a panel of individuals. They were mostly from the school district, and it was basically related to how are the schools going to help support children in need or families, in this community. So that was the bulk of it, but it was mainly about people saying, we're here, we care, we haven't gone anywhere, we're still going to do this work.
After 1 month on December, at that time I came here, came to Champagne to visit, and I watched it in the council. At that time, the urban council decided to the sanctuary city.
Right.
Yeah. At that time, I was there, and more people come to appeal why we show that welcome for immigrants and sanctuaries. We should decide the sanctuary city like that. It's also very impressive just after the elections. And but sanctuary city sanctuary is not recently. It's more sanctuary city was there in the U.S. What is a sanctuary city? It is difficult to realize.
Well, the term initially came from a time in the 1980s. Well,
1980s.
It may have come from before that. I mean, the word sanctuary has been around for, it's many hundreds of years. It is a term. It has a meaning. But the concept of a sanctuary city began, as far as I understand, in the 1980s during a time when a lot of individuals from Central America were being displaced by civil war, and they were coming as refugees to the United States seeking sanctuary or seeking safety, and the government was saying, no, you got to go away, you can't come in here. And so churches and places were saying, no, we will not allow these people to be deported because they're going to their death. There were actual military groups going around shooting people who disagreed with them. So if you were one of those people, you got out of your country. But then our country was saying, no, we don't accept you. We don't want you here. You have to go back. And so to people going back at that time, it was pretty much you're going to your death, very likely. So it was a very fraught time, and people were very concerned about it. So a number of groups worked on trying to come up with ways to provide sanctuary, and sanctuary cities became this notion that in this city we will not, we will protect you, kind of. As it's used now, it's much more vague. It doesn't really mean a whole lot. It in its broadest terms, it simply means that the city will not go beyond what it is legally required to do to identify or pick up immigrants, or basically assist the federal authorities in finding or detaining or deporting immigrants. So it just means I'll do what I have to do, but nothing more than that. And that's really all it means these days, for the most part. There are little differences in the way people write their sanctuary city resolutions, basically. But in general, that's pretty much what it means, is that we're stating on the record that we're not going to cooperate with the federal government beyond what we are legally obligated to do in terms of immigration.
But indeed, you said vague. Vague means there's no practical. For example, Urbana said we are sanctuary city.
Yeah.
But Champaign is not.
Right.
Was not. So what's the difference between the Champaign and Urbana? A sanctuary city is indeed very difficult for Japanese to understand. In Japanese, in newspaper also sometimes says about the sanctuary city. And indeed, after the Trump got won the elections, more sanctuary city, more city says we are the sanctuary city, and sometimes Trump says we will punish such a sanctuary city. But indeed, what is a sanctuary city? What's the difference? Sanctuary city and non-sanctuary cities, and practically. You said about the concept, the practical. What's the difference?
Well, it depends on the city. That's a very broad question. Like I said, a sanctuary resolution, those are different from place to place. And they can include anything that they feel they can put in there or they want to put in there. But in general, it simply is a statement of intent. It's a statement of belief more than it is a practical document in terms of protecting people. It doesn't, it's more a lack of threatening than it is a type of protecting, if that makes sense. Because a lot of immigrants don't know who is in charge of what. Like your average immigrant who is, fairly new here and maybe not as well educated, so they didn't already know something about the system here, doesn't really understand necessarily the difference between the federal government, the state government, the local government, police, ICE, which stands for Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. They wear jackets that say police on it. So if you think police, you have local police, you have federal police.
Oh, really?
Police are police, right?
Police,
I mean, that's
police,
the same thing, but it's not the same thing at all. It is a type of police. They work for immigration and they work on immigration, but they're not police in the same way that somebody, walking down the street who says you can't throw that chewing gum on the ground. You have to put it in a trash can. That's local police have a certain job. They're trying to protect people from crime. They have very specific role and limitations to what they are supposed to do. Immigration police, if we can call them that, have a very different job, and they're trying to do something. So the point I'm trying to make is that a lot of immigrants don't know these differences. They don't know what their rights are, what the limitations of what this person can do and that person can do, how the state government is different from the federal government, what the hierarchy of ability to make rules or laws, how far does this law protect me? How much in danger of this am I? I mean, it's vague. They may have some idea, but they don't know. I would go so far as to say that most citizens don't actually know a lot about that sort of thing. We just kind of go, oh, well, the police are the police, and the government's the government, and it's all kind of the same. It all kind of blends together. So the idea of a sanctuary city and making a statement is putting down in writing and making a public statement, this is what we will and won't do and what you can expect from us. But you mentioned Urbana and Champaign. Effectively, in terms of policy, there isn't a big difference between how either city treats immigrants. In fact, the entire county, Champaign County, is the same way. They basically do not cooperate with ICE beyond what they are legally required to do. So living in Champaign or living in Urbana, as an immigrant, it's really no different for you in those terms. But some cities, somewhere, I don't know, Danville or Springfield, I don't know what city, but there could be a city which is not a sanctuary city, which may have a very different attitude. And you don't know that because it's not like they're going to necessarily put up a sign saying, we don't like immigrants and we will make every possible effort to identify and assist the customs people in getting rid of you. They're probably not going to say that. So what is helpful about sanctuary city designation is you have made a statement that you are then sort of obligated to follow through and you can be held accountable for. So if you behave differently, people can say, no, you said you're a sanctuary city, this is how you act, and you didn't do it. So it is an obligation, it is a promise of sorts, and I think it's important, and I wish Champaign would make a sanctuary statement. I've met with the local city people, and they've explained their reasons for not doing it. And I have to respect that. I can't twist arms. I can only do what I can do. But I wish they would, because of the statement, because of the effect it would have, not because it would necessarily change how they behave. Did that answer your question? I'm sorry, I'm getting hoarse here.
No, I'm thinking first you said about the immigration forum, how you started this immigration forum. At that time you said about some person disappear suddenly. So disappear suddenly, it means now you explained about the two kind of police. One kind of is the local police, the other kind of is you said immigration police.
Yeah.
So in that case, that some people suddenly disappear, it means the immigration police could take them, some undocumented persons, and could to deport, but the local police couldn't do.
Yeah, they can't do that. But what they were doing, and what the Trump administration is now asking them to do again, is cooperating with ICE. So they were saying, "Oh, I picked up Mugiko, who was driving without a license. She is scheduled to be released on Monday." And immigration, I'm talking immigration when I say that, and they say, "Well, we'll come down and pick her up, so please hold her until we get there." So I would say, okay, so even though you are supposed to be released, I would keep you in jail until they showed up to get you. That's what I mean by disappearing. And that's the kind of cooperation that they're asking for and that they want. And that is exactly the kind of thing that a sanctuary city will not do, and is stating publicly that they don't do that. But other cities also don't do that. Some other cities also don't do that. Some other law enforcement agencies, like the sheriff in the county, will not do that. So there are other groups that are not cooperating in that way that just simply have not made that statement. That's the difference.
It's difficult. Yeah, but I realize, because for me the police is police.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So it is difficult to realize. But then you said if some government try to deport some persons, undocumented persons, say the immigration police should get more information from local area, or collaborate with the local police and immigrant eyes like that. Then why some local government don't collaborate with so much, don't support such kind of activity, such means to deport or to pick up? And,
well, several reasons, several possible reasons. One is that immigration violation is a federal crime. It is not a crime. It's not a local crime. So if I'm a local, let's say, chief of police, and you are an undocumented person, you have committed no crime under my jurisdiction, under my ability or interest in doing anything about. You're simply here. The government says you're not supposed to be here, but you're here as, you're obeying the laws, you're paying your bills, you're not walking down the middle of the street, you're not throwing your garbage on the ground, you're not doing any of the things that I care about. So in that sense, I don't care. That's their problem. They should deal with it. Another reason is that, as I said earlier, it's financial. It costs me money to put you in jail. I forget how much it is per day, but it's an expensive thing to hold somebody in jail for any period of time. So if you have committed no crime that is my concern, I have no reason to put you in jail or to hold you there. So it's kind of it's practical and idealistic, I guess you might say. If I have no problem with immigrants, generally, I'm not a racist or a bigot or anything like that, and I don't have some sort of belief system that tells me that immigrants are bad for the community or they're taking jobs or all these different things that people say about them. If I don't believe those things, I have no reason to really want to put my energy or time into making your life miserable simply because the federal government has a problem with your being here. So I think there are as many reasons as there are people in those positions, but the financial reason is a pretty powerful one. But there's also, beyond that, I guess I'm leaving out another point. If my job is to work in the community and to solve crimes, it's going to be a lot easier for me to do that if I am trusted as an honest person whose interest is only in solving crimes. If you think, oh, I can't talk to him because I know he's against me as an immigrant, I might be deported, so I'm not going to, have anything to do with him. That makes my job harder. If I'm trying to solve crimes in the immigrant community and no one will speak to me, every time I show up, they all go running away, it's almost impossible to work under those conditions. You have to be a police officer and do your job effectively, you have to have a certain level of trust and cooperation in the community. It's nothing, you can't just drive around and do the job entirely by yourself. You can't identify criminals just by looking at them. I'm sure there are some police that imagine that they can, like, he looks shifty, he's got that kind of T-shirt on, or he walks a certain way. But for the most part, they know you have to ask questions. You have to talk to people. You have to form relationships and communicate. And if you are working with people who simply are afraid of you because they know that you are connected to this thing that might get them deported, that makes your job harder. So that's another reason, aside from ideology and aside from the practicality of money, it's how effectively can I do my job if people think I am dangerous to them because I am a police officer. So, and there are probably more reasons I'm not even thinking of, but those are 3 big reasons why you might not want to cooperate in that way.
Yeah, thank you for your explanation. Because for me, it is not, for Japanese, it's not easy. Why? So a lot of undocumented immigrants are there, 11 million,
Something like that.
like that. So it's a different reasons, more financial reasons, more ideological reasons, and also already immigrants more involved in the local communities, and also the contribute to the economics in local economics like that. So different reasons are there.
Yeah. Well, oddly enough, counterintuitively, I might say, one reason there are so many undocumented immigrants here is because over time we have gone through a phase of restricting immigration and making our laws more strict and being more careful about letting people in. People continue to have reasons why they want to be here, or why they feel they need to be here. So they come and go for those, based on those reasons. How the government treats them affects how easily they come or they go. So the more strict the government becomes in controlling immigration, the more people who are just like, wow, I made it here, I'm better stay here because I can't, if I go away, I can't come back. So by being more strict, the government has created more people who can't, don't work within the system, or unable to make the system work for them, and can't come and go anymore. So they're stuck here as undocumented people. Oh,
It's time?
Cameras are telling me things. Yeah, it is actually time to end the show. I think that camera just ran out. Anyway, I appreciate you being on the show. Thank you so much. To the listener, I hope this wasn't just a bunch of old news for you, and that you heard something that was useful to you. In any event, this has been CU Immigration here on WRFU LP Urbana 104.5 FM. We come to you every Monday from 7 to 8 more, thereabouts. And we appreciate you listening, and we'll see you again sometime.